Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to video number 2 on solving multi-step equations, lesson 1.2. And we're going to continue, and this time we're going to have some parentheses because we're going to use the distributive property to solve the equation. And I know you've distributed before. So again, I highly recommend you put your stuff down and just pay attention, listen, and watch, and then pick it up and write it after I tell you to pause. All right, so I can see that I need to eliminate the parentheses. You should always eliminate parentheses first. You can't combine some of the like terms before you eliminate the parentheses. You can some, but not always. So it's just easier to eliminate parentheses first and then combine like terms. So to distribute, we're going to take the 8 and multiply it by the x. Recognize this is a positive 8. So I'm going to have 20. 8 times x is plus 8x, and 8 times a negative 11 is minus 88. And that is equal to a negative 12. All right? And so now we can combine some like terms. We recognize that we have this 20 and this negative 88 on the same side. So when we combine those, we get a negative 68. So 8x minus 68 is equal to negative 12. We recognize we have more like terms. We have a negative 68 and a negative 12. They are on opposite sides. To isolate, we want to move that negative 68 to the other side. So the inverse, because they are on opposite sides, is to add the 68. So now 8x is equal to, let's see, that's 68, 56. Now we have a simple equation. Dividing by 8 to isolate the variable. The inverse operation of multiplying by 8 is to divide by 8. To keep the equation balanced, we're going to divide on both sides by 8, and we get x equals 7. Go ahead and pause the video and write it all down. Join me for example number 8. Here in example 8, we have negative 4 times the quantity of 3p minus 5 plus 10p is equal to 19. So once again, we are going to distribute, and this time the factor is a negative 4. So I'm going to distribute that negative 4 across the parentheses. Negative 4 times 3 is a negative 12p. Negative 4 times a negative 5 is a positive 20. Plus the 10p is equal to 19. And we recognize that we have some like terms that we can combine. We have a negative 12 and a positive 10. When we combine those together, we get negative 2p plus 20 is equal to 19. And then we have 2 more sets of like terms that we can combine. Now this time they're on opposite sides. So negative 2p is now, we're going to subtract the 20 from both sides, equal to a negative 1. And we have a simple equation now. All we have to do is divide by a negative 2. And we get that p is equal to a positive 1/2. Why positive? Negative divided by a negative is positive. Go ahead and pause the video and meet me for example 9. Here in example 9, I'm just going to show you real quickly what it might look like to factor out that 3. Or not factor it out, but we're going to divide that factor of 3 out first. And just remember, and just know, you have to divide all terms. So if we look at the terms, first of all, inside the parentheses, this negative 5x plus 2, that entire thing is a term. So the factor is 3, so I'm going to divide that entire term by 3. And then the next term is the 6, I'm going to divide by 3. And the next term is the negative 18. I'm going to divide that by 3. So I'm going to recognize, that this 3 simplifies out, leaving me with a negative 5x plus 2. 6 divided by 3, 6 divided 3 is plus 2. Equals negative 18 divided by 3 is negative 6. So now I've eliminated those parentheses by dividing out the factor versus using the distributive property. I can then combine like terms. I recognize the 2 and the 2, so I combine those. Negative 5x plus 4 is equal to negative 6. Because I want to simplify and combine those terms, I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. I get negative 5x is equal to a negative 10. Dividing out the negative 5 to isolate the variable, doing it on both sides to keep the equation balanced, x equals 2. That's simple. That's straightforward. I guarantee you, if you had distributed the negative 3 and done the math, you'd have gotten the same answer. If you don't believe me, try it on your own or ask in class, and I'll show you in class. Oh, pause the video, write all that down, and then join me for example number 10. In example 10, we're looking at some real-life applications. It says you have scored a 7, a 10, an 8, and a 9 on 4 quizzes. Write and solve an equation to find the score you need on the 5th quiz so that your mean score is 8. So you got to remember, what does mean represent? It means the average, right? No pun intended. It's the average. How do we find the average? Well, we add up all the scores, we divide by the number of scores, and that gives us our average. Well, it tells us we want an average of 8. We want an average of 8. So 8 has to equal the sum of the scores. Well, the scores are the first 4, 7 plus 10 plus 8 plus 9. Plus, we want to know what we're going to get on the next score, the 5th quiz. We don't know what that score is. It's unknown, so I'm going to use an X. And then, of course, how many scores is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're dividing that by 5. And that becomes our equation. So we're going to combine some like terms here. And if we combine all of these, 7 plus 10 is 17, plus 8 is 25, plus 9 is 34. So we end up with 8 equals 34 plus X divided by 5. Well, the inverse operation of dividing by 5 is multiplying by 5. And so we're going to simplify that 5 out. 5 times 8 is 40. So 40 is now equal to 34 plus X. And so we're going to combine these like terms right here. We're going to combine these like terms by subtracting 4. We're going to move that 34 to the other side. 34, so we get 6 is equal to X. 6 equals X. So we need a score of 6 on our last quiz so that we have an average or a mean of 8. Moving right along. Oh, go ahead and pause. Write all that down, and then join me for example number 11. Number 11, Ella swims 4 times a week at her club's pool. She swims the same number of laps on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and 15 laps on Saturday. Write and solve an equation to find the number of laps she swam on Monday if she swam a total of 51 laps. So one of the things I do like to do, and I didn't show it on the last one because I was just getting too excited, I guess, is to mark my text. And I noticed it's the same number on all 3 of these days. Well, I don't know how much we swam on each one of those days. So if it's the same number, I represent it with the same variable, X. And there was 15 laps on Saturday. We know we want to find that she swam a total of 51. So the whole darn thing has to equal 51. So we have the Monday plus the Wednesday plus the Friday plus Saturday is equal to 51. Combining like terms, we have 1, 2, 3 X's plus 15 is equal to 51. Continuing to combine like terms, we're going to move the 15 to the other side, so I'm going to subtract 15 from both sides. We have 3x is now equal to, what is that, 36. And when we divide by 3, our simple equation, we want to isolate and keep it balanced. The inverse is divide by 3. X is equal to 12. So 12 laps each day. 12 laps on Monday, 12 laps on Wednesday, 12 laps on Friday. Ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and pause the video, write that down, and join me for our last example of the night. A taxi service, number 12. A taxi service charges you $1.50 plus 60 cents per mile for a trip to the airport. The distance to the airport is 10 miles and the total charge is $13.50. Write and solve an equation to find how many minutes to ride to the airport. So how many minutes to ride to the airport? Well, they're going to charge us $1.50 plus 60 cents per minute. Per minute. It says the total distance to the airport is 10 miles and the total charge is $13.50. I don't need miles, so this is not, that's information I don't need. But I do need the total charge. So they charge me $1.50. I'm going to write that as 1.5 plus 60 cents per minute. Well, I'm going to represent each minute with an M. And I know that the total of that was $13.50. Combining like terms, this $1.50 and the $13.50 are like terms. They're on opposite sides, so I'm going to subtract the 1.5. And I know that now 0.6 M is equal to 12. And then I have a simple equation, and all I need to do is divide out the 0.6 because that's the inverse of multiplying. 0.6, and I find that M equals 20. So it was a 20-minute drive. Ladies and gentlemen, copy that down and then quickly write down your quick write. You have 2 quick writes. 2 things to do on the second quick write, solving this equation and then doing the problem, the story problem. So go ahead and read through that, write down the information that you need. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a great night. It is always a pleasure and an honor to work with you. And of course, if there's anything I said that you don't understand, make sure you're asking questions. See you tomorrow.